I may be the first voidist, but I will not be the last. I always find it interesting that throughout human history, patriarchy has tried to make itself dominant through worshiping God or the gods in male forms. Now, the idea that the male is the stronger and more important part of humanity seems to be asserted through our worship of God or the gods through male forms. Though our physical strength is greater, that does not mean that, on average, that does not mean that women are any less strong or any less valuable or any less a part of life than men. The Divine Mother and goddesses pop up in many forms that both display strength and love equal to any forms of God or God represented as being male. The Divine Mother and goddesses are just as much a part of our hearts, but when we find patriarchy in government, in spiritual traditions, and in religion, it seems that the male part of humanity is more important, when in fact this is not the case. The Divine Mother has taken many forms, as I said. We can refer to the Divine Mother Kalima, Durga, Athena. We can refer to goddesses of love and also war or power as Freja in the Nordic tradition. All of these display the same qualities as their male counterparts in those pantheons, in those higher levels of godhood, you could say. Because the Divine Mother Kalima is not considered a demigod or a demigoddess. She's considered second only to that which is completely beyond the manifested reality we find ourselves in, containing many universes, containing many dimensions. Many dimensions being the foundation for the universes, of course. We can refer to Yggdrasil to get a better idea of the multidimensional nature of existence. But I digress. The Divine Mother appears in many forms, but the Divine Mother is one. We all know the motherly energy that we've become accustomed to, and it is no less important than the fatherly one. And when we slowly look at every god and goddess, we start to realize that, really, they're all part of the same energy, but just different aspects. They are not, one or the other is not dominant. It is only human society and culture who has decided throughout human history, through male dominance, that the male gods, or the male form of God in the Abrahamic traditions, is the main form of God we should look up to, and that is not the case. The motherly aspect of creation is the ability to bear life. You need the male aspect as well. You need the will combined with the life that a woman can bear. And when I say will, I mean the metaphysical understanding of will, kind of the acceptance of direction combined with the ability for space to exist around that direction upon which we move forward. This is a very metaphysical relationship between male and female, but we need the space and we need that which goes through the space. A lot of it can be very sexual if I break it down even further, but regardless, the Divine Mother and goddesses among human understanding are just as important. And when we look at our lives, we often paint the gods and goddesses in a way that makes them seem more human so that we can relate to them better. When in reality, these foundations of reality are not really human. They're not really anthropomorphic. They are intrinsic forces that need not a body. That doesn't mean that they can't don a body when necessary or don one that's appropriate to their force. But these bodies that we live in, we expect everything above to be just as we are. As above, so below, so goes the saying, but not in material. Because you reach a certain level when material no longer matters, when material becomes something else, when it doesn't need to be manifested in a solid form. It doesn't need to be manifested in an elemental form, but a far subtler form. And the Divine Mother Kalima's love, and the Divine Mother aspect which pops up in other pantheons and throughout the world, that love, that motherly love, doesn't need a form. It simply is. You also need the male side of it, of course, but the Divine Mother's love, the Divine Mother's emanation into creation, into reality, simply is. And we know that from the second we are born. We have a sense of who our mother is, who our father is, and we accept them both. Unless there is immediate abuse from them, or we have some defect in our physiology or our minds. I'm schizophrenic, so I do have a genetic defect. But I still remember who I relied on most. And I think that has influenced me to look up to the Divine Mother aspect of God more than the male aspect of God. Because we all have these influences, and it's okay to look at God or the gods through the male aspects or the female aspects. Either way is fine. We just have to understand that both are vital, and ultimately, once you get to the highest forms, they're both the same. There is no separation, there is no difference. It is only here that we decide things are different, that they need different names, that they are essentially separate from one another, and they don't have the same qualities. But in fact, ultimately, everything has the same qualities. The Divine Mother and Goddesses need more representation in our understanding as either pagans, heathens, Hindus, all pantheons and spiritual traditions which acknowledge different forms of God or different forms of the source, different functions even of the grander whole. We all need to focus more on the feminine, because when it comes down to it, the feminine has been underrepresented because of the ability for males to establish patriarchy in government, in society, and culture. So we need to look to the Divine Mother and the Goddess far more than we do now. And I hope that in the coming days we start to realize this more and more, for I see a trend in history that we're starting to see how similar we are, regardless of culture, regardless of gender, regardless of identification, regardless of nation. We're starting to really see the substance of what it is to be human. And I think that as we move forward, the Divine Mother and the Goddess will play a bigger role in our hearts and minds, in our reality, or we'll start to see that, because they already do. Thank you very much, and all of you, have a great day.